Hi there! In today's show, I'm going to introduce you to a scooter, specifically the best urban scooter that has been with me recently. Stick with me! Depending on the model, keep rolling, just keep rolling. There's a wide variety of rollers hitting the market. This year also saw the arrival of the first member of the top tier G4 series. There is a G41 Pro available now, but I will not talk about it in this video, just the G41 Pro. We will introduce it at the end of 2023. G4 now represents entry level in the world of serious, strong, big wheel scooters, high top speed, long range, high torque. So it has everything necessary to take a scooter seriously. However, there were two problems with the scooter that led to the release of an upgraded version this year. One was the key. The steering column was at the top and it was quite dangerous. They moved it to the right side of the steering column. The other is an issue with the steering prone to wobbling at high speeds, which was extremely dangerous. So the upgraded 2024 version has arrived this year. And that's why you can see this video from me. I won't deal with unboxing now, as there's really nothing to assemble, so we can dive straight into the specs. According to the specs, this scooter is an incredibly good piece, single engine, naturally rear-wheel drive, but this single engine is 2000 volts. It's very important that we have a high torque of 38 Newton meters. This motor starts, and it's very important that instead of the usual 48 for smaller scooters, we get 60 volts instead of the medium 52 volt systems. Despite seeming relatively small, the 20Ah battery with a 60V system gives us 1200 watt, which is quite significant. The scooter is not free due to its very powerful engine and the 60 volt system. Its other capabilities are quite impressive too, as it can reach speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour according to factory data. On the road, of course, the range is 70 to 75 kilometers, can tackle a slope of 20 degrees. The maximum weight recommended for it is 120 kilograms. The machine features disc brakes at both front and rear. Unfortunately, these are still mechanical disc brakes. Obviously, we find lights at the front and back. The machine got the new fairing with the built-in light and built-in indicators. And at the back, near the corner brace, under the corner brace, we find another light, which can function as an indicator, brake light and rear light. The new head unit already has the modern instrument with a color display and touch-sensitive buttons. The index switch is still the traditional clicking left-right switching version, not the G2 master switch, with a push button, which I actually preferred much more. It's also important to mention the wheel size, which is now 11 times. And interestingly, it's not designed for off-road but for urban hard surfaces. The manufacturer fitted rubber patents. This somewhat previews that we are indeed talking about an urban scooter, no matter how much it looks like a full-fledged scooter. That's about all for the specifications. So let's dive into what it's like to use the scooter, starting with the bad part. The first bad thing is the display. It looks muddy in the dark, but the moment the big one comes out, you won't see anything from it anymore. And it's not just that you can't see how fast you're going, but you also can't see what gear you're in. Of course, here you can choose from 3 levels to there's an Eco, a Sport, and such a Practicer. And, well, you won't see this part. But that's not the only issue. You also won't be able to see where the buttons are to, for example, change gears or turn on the light, since the display is touch sensitive. And if the sun burns into it, you just can't see where the button is, and you won't be able to switch it. True, even if you saw the button, you wouldn't see which setting you're in or if the light is on. So something should be done about it, I feel. Another issue is with the brakes, which obviously is not life-threatening. These mechanical disc brakes are quite good enough. They can be this powerful too. Can grab the scooter, but this is quick, has a high top speed. And in my experience, you can emergency brake from speeds over 50 kilometers per hour with these disc brakes on the shows. The mechanical disc brake. It's not the same anymore. To me, it's a bit too much. The braking distance is long. Be careful with this. The third thing is, what's even more interesting is that the manufacturer, as I said, As I said, they released the upgraded version which eliminated the steering wheel's flailing tendency. It required two things. The handlebar has gotten wider, which increases the leverage, allowing us to exert more force to push back against thrashing and prevent the chance. The other thing, which is such a much more interesting and initially very perplexing solution, was the government having a quite noticeable centrist position when good to the middle. You need a bit of force to turn it. And when the steering wheel returns to center, it feels like something clicks into place, like something jumps in. Wriggle out, stand up, and from there I need to turn it around. When I first started out with the scooter, that's why I prepared for the scooter. This bothered me tremendously, especially when I was taking the small believer's turn, because in the small believer's turn, you only need to stretch out a little, the steering wheel, and it always wanted to jump back. So when I went into the bend, it wasn't smooth, but rather square-shaped, and I tried to turn like that, got home and thought that this scooter is literally life-threatening. Compared to that, what happened was, when I went for the longer test, which was a 35 kilometer, I got off it like that. It was the best urban scooter of my life. There are likely two reasons for this. One being that I got used to this a bit more decisive neutral position. On the other hand, as if things got a bit more refined, so after 35 kilometers, the movement wasn't that angular, much smoother. I can turn it out with much less effort, turning the steering from a middle position so it didn't feel that dangerous anymore. Actually, this is not a good articulation because after 22 miles, I didn't feel prone to accidents at all. Speaking of these 21 miles, let me reveal the actual range. I'm roughly 220 pounds, which is not the factory power. 65 to 70 kilogram sibling, with which they test their scooters. And essentially during the test, throughout its entire length, or at least 2/3 of it, I used the scooter at near peak performance, meaning top speed. And that's how I managed to do 22 miles with it. The factory data is about 43 miles, I always say. Usually, if you have the factory data, you approximately get the reality. With this scooter, if you're lighter than me and don't want to go as fast as I did during the test, in my opinion, 40-45, but if you're very, very careful, maybe even 50 kilometers could be achieved, which I think is quite a good value. Climbing a 20-degree incline, as specified in the specifications post, absolutely no problem for the device. I rode it in places and at speeds where the last time, compared to the 6000W electric scooter I tried last year, says a lot. Obviously, many people are interested in what the top speed is like, since the factory specified 70 kilometers per hour, which is, to put it mildly, a significant speed. First and foremost, I must say, make sure to dress properly, wear proper protective clothing, have a decent helmet. We wanted to speed around on a scooter, falling at 70 kilometers per hour. Falling on asphalt isn't a pleasant experience. You can get really badly hurt. So before you start testing the top speed on this scooter or any other scooter, please, you guys dress up properly. Don't take this thing lightly. Speaking from experience, I know the ugly consequences it can have. Like a fall at 25 miles per hour. Top speed. They gave the scooter a 70 kilometers per hour rating according to the speedometer. Using a slight slope, I reached a speed of 45 to 45.5 miles per hour. However, in practice, according to the phone's GPS, it was more like 63 to 64 kilometers per hour. But that's not little. Of course, I couldn't reach the 70 on the secondary roads either. This was around 38, 39. What's the limit I could go? According to the GPS, that's about 54 to 56 kilometers per hour. And obviously this isn't bad either. What's also very important, the engine has great torque. And because of that great torque, the acceleration is fantastic. That speed of 50-55 kilometers per hour is already enough to, in a proper traffic jam, even you start among the cars, but without the necessary torque, you wouldn't accelerate enough. And say, starting from a red light, it's always possible that someone might disappear in the back. Fortunately, the 2006 engine and the high torque allow it speeds past drivers at the light who are either drowsy or not competitively sporty, making traffic much safer. Here's an example. Take a look. As you can see, there's absolutely no problem with acceleration. Obviously, they practice this with caution too. So far, so good, except for the few things I said weren't good. Lose weight like that. The KuKirin G4 is incredibly awesome. It turned out to be a very good city scooter. The running gear is incredibly good. The suspension system that is annoying and not very usable on forest soil works wonderfully on hard pavement. It holds the curve incredibly well, does not want to bounce off even at higher speeds, and smooths out smaller road imperfections perfectly. You simply don't feel the speed on it, and that might be the worst thing about this scooter. How good? Because it's so good, you won't even feel like you're going more than 30 kilometers per hour at a speed of 50 km/h. This will push even the inexperienced racers into situations. It can even be life-threatening. If I have to give some advice, on one hand, I would say, if you're looking for a good city scooter, go ahead and buy this one. You won't be disappointed. Another thing I can suggest is if you're not very experienced, then be very careful. Be very careful with it, as it lulls your attention and hides the dirt. It lulls your sense of danger to sleep. It's become so perfect, the ride is so smooth. It accelerates so well, sounds so good, you can't even hear the tire whispering on the asphalt. It's just that you don't feel the speed at which you're moving. So it's this odd situation where when our KuKirin is the case, the worst part is that it's really good. And take that for what it is right now. Alright, that's about it. You will find the link to the article below the video. Make sure to read it. You might find more information, and obviously pictures as well. Under the video on YouTube, you can find the link where you can purchase the scooter. I'll also include a discount code. If I remember correctly, the current one should suffice. At a good exchange rate, they're asking for about 320,000 forints for it, which I think is fair for a scooter with this performance and knowledge. Not much money. So if you crave something like that, to go a distance of 35 kilometers safely, comfortably, long ago, effortlessly, even in road traffic, then the KuKirin G4 would be a good choice. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it. If so, I'll be back next week with another test. Be good until then. Bye.